My name is Henrietta Nonye Odey. I am a Nigerian from Anambra State. I am passionate about creating a world for the most vulnerable, and I do that through enlightenment programs.
Hello and welcome to Obehi Podcast. I'm your host, Obehi A14, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started with this episode.
I am a body safety expert, child protection advocate, and anti-GBV campaigner. So what I do is I go around communities inspiring women and children. I teach them they have rights. They can fight for themselves. They do not have to remain in a harmful situation. There are organizations, there are people willing to help them. And I tell them things they can do to help themselves. So in other words, I inspire them and I teach them how to protect themselves. For children, I equip them with skills, with knowledge and skills to prevent sexual abuse. I am actually a sexual abuse survivor, so this is very dear to my heart. I love children and I want them safe. I want them happy. So this is what I've been doing for years. This is my campaign. This is what I'm all about.
All right, thank you so much for that, dear Nonye. Do you want to tell me more about your background growing up in Anambra State? The reason is that this podcast is connected to both the African at home and also the African in diaspora. And for us, we like to talk more about ourselves so we can better connect to our roots and also to the people we are talking with. So in the first part of the podcast, we usually talk about ourselves. Where are you coming from? So that you help us to know you better. Can you do a little, like, when you were growing up, what are the things around you? What do you remember of your childhood? Please help me with that.
So my dad is actually my dad and my mom, they're both from Anambra State. But I was not raised in Anambra State. I was raised in Kaduna State. Yes. So most of my life, I lived in Kaduna State. I am even living in Kaduna State right now. My childhood was beautiful. It was really beautiful. The north part of Nigeria, they have a very calm lifestyle. So I grew up. I'm the last born. We are six. We're a family of six, and I'm the last born, the last girl. And growing up in the north was, should I say, fun. It was not. It was fun. It was cool. The struggles of the East, or most times we who were brought up in the North, we have a different lifestyle as compared to our friends or families brought up in the East. We are calmer, we are reserved. So that is how I grew up, and I schooled in the University of Maiduguri. Maiduguri as at then was peaceful. It was peaceful, full stops were cheap. It was okay before the whole Boko Haram and banditry started. Maiduguri was a peaceful and very calm town. So that's about it, about my childhood.
Thank you so much for that. So have you had the occasion of also maybe going to Anambra State from time to time to sort of connect to the people that are there, or maybe you accompany your parents there to sort of see what is available there and to know some persons there?
Yes, but when I was young, there's something we call returns here. Every 3 years, we go back home, we see our cousins, our family members abroad also come back, so we interact. We have it was we go for festivities like the Ofala. There were there were different festivities as at the time. It always happened during Christmas period. So I remember having fun with my cousins, home and abroad, enjoying those celebrations. Having it was always a fun time going back home. The food, the atmosphere, the people, the language, it was fun. It was fun. I enjoyed it then. I still enjoy it now when I have time to go back. It's Anambra. My village is actually Obinato village. My town is Ame. We have very lovely people. It's very lovely place. So when to go back home, I have fun. And one thing I like about my place is the food. We have different kinds of foods, and most foods you won't really see them here. You won't really get them abundantly here. I enjoy that a lot. Yeah.
All right.
For the food, I don't know if you've heard of okwa.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I've heard of
Okwa,
that. I've heard.
it's it's a breadfruit. They call it breadfruit. So that's like one of my favorites. It's it's delicious. Ah, it's the best. So I that's one of the meals I know I enjoy very well when anytime I go back to the village.
All right. Now, how did you get started with body safety? Of course, that is what we are going to spend most of our time with today, because I understand that you are into advocacy. You try to sensitize women against sexual abuse. And you said that even yourself, you have been a victim of sexual abuse. Would you like to say anything about that? Of course, it depends on you if it's something you like to share, or if there is any part of it you like to share. Help us understand that. That help, of course, to know you a little better.
Okay, so as a child, there were things I didn't know, and there were things my parents didn't know, so they didn't teach me. So it's actually not their fault. And when I was about 8 or 9, I went for a wedding, and I sat on a family. I was on my own, and a family friend called me, and he asked me to sit on his thighs. I sat on his thighs, and the next thing he started touching my breast. They were actually underdeveloped at that time, but he was touching it and pressing me in different kinds of. That was actually in public. As at the time, I didn't know what was happening, and I was very uncomfortable, but I couldn't say stop. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't shout. I couldn't do anything, but I was helpless. I was helpless, and I couldn't call for help, even if there were people around. Thinking back, I'm asking myself, those people around during the wedding, is it that they didn't see the discomfort in my face? Is it that they didn't see the fear in my face? And after what happened, I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell them anything, but it stuck with me. It stuck with me because I kept on telling myself that shouldn't have happened. That shouldn't have happened. And I was angry with myself that I couldn't speak out. I was angry I wasn't confident enough to shout or to alert people that I was being molested. I just sat down on his side and let him continue doing what he was doing. So anytime I thought about it growing up, I always felt bad. I wanted that to change. So as an adult, most of the places I worked are health facilities. So I was opportune to go for a GBV training one time. And when I went for the training, it was like my eyes were open. They taught me things I never knew, and that was how my advocacy began. It was like after the training, the scales fell off my eyes. I knew the exact thing I needed to do. And that was gender-based violence awareness. So that was how I started. I started with the health facility I was working then. our clients were mostly HIV positive. So I started with the women, with the men. Then we also had a department that was involved with domestic violence and sexual abuse. So I started there. I started talking to the children, the women. From there, I started going to communities. I started going to school. Gradually, I started being invited on TV and radio to talk about different forms of GBV. And that was how I started writing online. So that was how my journey started. Right now, I have a campaign on change.org. It's actually a campaign, is a petition to Kaduna State government to implement body safety education in all primary schools. I believe when a child is taught body safety, the child can speak up for him or herself. The child can report. The child can defend herself or himself against pedophiles or sexual predators. So my dream is for every child to live in a safe world. My dream is for every child to be able to speak up when they are in situations of harm without fear and without fear. So this is my passion and this is my why. This is why I started all of this.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Nonye. That is very important. And of course, for those of you that are listening to us, we're going to be spending some time about body safety today with Nonye. She's going to be explaining to us what it means, how can you protect yourself, why it is important that we need to teach this to our children. You just heard that she has a petition on change.org, which is raising awareness. This is a very important conversation. But before we move there just now, Nonye, I want you to help me understand that incident when you were 8 years old that happened in the public, which means people were there, they're supposed to have been able to help you, they didn't help you. Tell me if your parents were ever aware of it, and also this person that violated your right, that molested you, how old was the person? And you also said the person was a relation, if I'm not mistaken, sort of is related to the family. Help me clarify that, because all these are very important in terms of how we protect our children, how we protect ourselves, and how we make sure that we remove those individuals who are always looking for a way to take advantage of the vulnerable members of that society. Yes, go with that, please.
Okay, so he was an adult. I think he should have been in his early 20s or mid 20s. Then my parents never knew because I didn't tell them. I didn't tell them. It's just recently, last year, I started talking about it. So my parents never knew. The only person that knew was my elder brother because he was the one that saw me he was the guy that was on his thigh was actually older than him. He saw it and he wasn't comfortable, and he was the one that called me from far to come. So he was the one that actually helped me at the end of the day, but the guy had already done what he did. So it was my elder brother that helped me then because he called me, and it was when he called me that I was able to get out of the man's grip. So the guy was an adult because he was in his early 20s or mid 20s, and he's a family friend. Yes, family friend. The family friend of the family.
And for what he did, okay, because you didn't tell your parent, your brother also. I want to believe that your brother now, in this case, you told him or you didn't tell him what happened from there. Nobody took action on it. Why did they take action? Was it because it was not there was no need for it? They didn't feel it was necessary. Can you say anything about that?
Yes, I was 8 years, and he was, let's say, maybe in his teenage, maybe he was 14 or 15, and the guy was mid 20s. So all he knew was he saw me sitting on the guy's side and he saw the guy's hands on my chest. That obviously didn't make him comfortable and he called out to me to come. He didn't know all that happened and I didn't tell him all that happened. You know, our society, things concerning abuse is hidden. Things concerning abuse is treated in secrecy. So people hardly talk about it. So that was what happened because he was just in his early teens. So there was little to nothing that he could do. And my parents didn't know because none of us ever told them. I didn't tell them because I didn't even know how to tell them.
Mm-hmm. All right. I get that. Now, this is the last question I'm asking you there before we move into body safety. Now, looking back into what has happened, looking at how small you were at that time, and how the person who is older than you, who was supposed to protect you, started to take advantage of you. And of course, your brother now, your brother is also small. Perhaps you didn't understand because you didn't tell them, so they didn't take action on that. Now, what do you think you would have done in that case? Do you think you could have, if you have shouted, you could have been treated differently? I mean, tell me what you think you could have done, having passed through what you passed through to have a change. Because I want to believe that when you talk to small children, some of them will have a curiosity. You do advise them what to do. I'm sure you don't want to tell them, hey, somebody is touching you, keep quiet, no? So help me understand what you think you could have done then at 8 years of age.
That is, I should have been able to say no. Stop it. I wouldn't even sit on his thighs in the first place. Even if he called out and said, sit on my thighs, I would tell him no. I don't want to, and you cannot force me. I don't want to sit on your thighs, and I will not sit on your thighs. I wouldn't have been afraid or compelled to sit on his thighs. I would have told him there, I am not sitting on your thighs, and don't ever tell me to sit on your thighs again. So if I knew what I know now, that is what I would have told him, even as at 8. So when I go to the schools, when I talk to children, this is what I teach them. I teach them they have right to decide what happens to their bodies. Nobody else. No adult, no pair, nobody except themselves. They have every right to speak out when somebody is hurting them. That is what I always tell them. It doesn't matter the situation, whether it's in the case of abuse or just bullying in school, but whatever situation they are in and they are uncomfortable, they must speak out. That is what I go and teach them. I teach them how they should imbibe it, how they should continue. Even in their family, I tell them, if your father or your mother hurts you, you have every right to say, Mommy, Daddy, I didn't like what you did. You did this, you did that, it hurts me. That is what I teach these children because it is when they are able to speak out that others around them say, okay, this child needs help. This child is defending herself or himself, is trying to speak out against this adult that is trying to do this, or against another child that's trying to harm him or her. So let's say I was 8 and I knew what I knew now, that is what I would have done. So the abuse wouldn't have happened because I would have straight up, I cannot sit on your thigh. So whatever he did that day would have not even happened because I wouldn't have even sat on his thigh in the first place.
All right. Thank you so much for that. This is very important. I remember now. I've talked to different experts, psychologists, and and people that are working with children, both against a victim, both at the level of the United Nations, those working at that area, organizing symposium on how to sensitize them. You see, I live in Italy, and Nigeria, a lot of Nigerian women have been trafficked to this place. A lot of that has been violated, and in fact, all across Europe, not only in Italy, but of course, that of Italy is very particular in a certain sense. So this topic is very, very important. Also for the fact that it relates also to Nigeria, because a lot of Nigeria, I think Nigeria top the chart of the women that are trafficked to Europe. So this is why I think it's very important. And I find it also very valid what you are doing, in that based on what has happened to you, you have taken it up upon yourself as a duty to help other people so that they cannot become victim. You are telling them what they should do. In fact, because of what you could have done in that case to avoid what happened, you don't know what to tell them. And this is very, very important. All right. Now, tell me about the project that you are working on, the Body Safety Academy. This is where we are going to be spending most of our time today. What does it mean? What do you do there?
Okay, so the Body Safety Academy is an organization that seeks to help families, that is adults and children, parents and children. It equips parents and children with the skills to prevent sexual abuse. That is, with our teachings, what we teach the children can be armed up. And that would help prevent sexual abuse. With what we'll teach the parents, they will be knowledgeable about it, and they will be able to teach their children, which would also help prevent sexual abuse. So we have courses, we have WhatsApp classes, we have email courses, we also have one-on-one consultations. All this we do to equip families against sexual abuse. Then we have an ongoing project. We aim to reach 3,000 primary school children with free body safety education. It's actually an hour. So we aim to reach 3,000 primary school children with an hour of body safety education. So we are going around schools in Kaduna State and teaching them body safety. So that's what it's actually Raise Don't Ruin campaign. That's the name of the campaign. So I use that to teach my audience so that they can learn and practice it in their homes.
Now, speaking of Kaduna, where you stay, can you tell me a bit of how is the situation there in terms of child abuse, people that you are targeting? What is the situation there in the state of Kaduna?
Okay, child abuse is the incidence of child abuse in Kaduna State is actually high. We have about 4 sexual assault referral centers here in Kaduna State. And we constantly get reports of children being abused by adults who are mostly people they know. So it's quite high here in Kaduna State. And children, most times, the barrier to teaching body safety is most parents don't even know what body safety is. Most parents don't have an idea of what body safety is. So how can they teach their children when they don't even know it exists and it's going to empower their children? Then for some other parents is religion. They feel when you teach their children this, you're like paving way for them to be abused. You're like encouraging them to do the bad things, or you're spoiling them. One model in the body safety program is the use of correct names for your private parts. Most parents cannot pronounce names of their private parts. You hear them saying your pee, your bum bum, your this. They hardly pronounce the correct name of their private parts. Some don't even know. Some don't know the difference between vulva and vagina. Some don't even know the difference. And when you are teaching your child, if you don't know it, how can you teach your child? There's this woman that reached out to me one time. She was complaining her daughter was having pains around her vulvar region. And she said she didn't call it vulva, she called it bum bum. So imagine her calling a grown-up woman, an adult, calling her vulva bum bum. How then is the child supposed to learn this is actually my vulva or this is my vagina? So because of this fear, secrecy, and the fear, secrecy, it makes it harder because these parents feel when they teach their children these things, it just makes their children spoil. Meanwhile, it does the opposite. It actually arms their children against sexual abuse. So we are doing a lot of sensitization. We want parents to understand these things are actually good. These teachings are actually good for your children because it will protect them, not the other way around. So that is what we have been doing, sensitizing parents so that they understand these things are important. Their children need to be safe. And for their children need to be safe, they need to be armed. And how do they get armed? When we teach them body safety.
All right, thank you so much for that. And that is also an important question you are raising there, which is about even the question of sex education, because people are ashamed to call it sex. We need to talk about things. The thing is that, first of all, for us to even address a problem, we need to call the problem by its name. What kind of problem are we really addressing? If we just use code to talk about it without really using the language of the people that the people can understand, then it becomes even more difficult this time. This is also what they do in terms of the law, or they write the constitution in a way that is too highly placed in the terminology they use. The way people break the law down because they don't know actually what you are saying, what you are talking about. Then they say, ignorance of the law. But the thing is that if you are writing a law for the people, write it in a language that they can understand. Except maybe you are writing it for the court or for the lawyers. But the lawyer are not the lawbreaker. They are just interpreters of the law. The person who you are writing this law for is the ordinary people. So write it in a language that they can understand. So I don't know why people are so, there should be too much secrecy around things that are everyday. Because these are regular day, everyday life, no? We shouldn't have too much secrecy about it. Because what usually happens, like you already said, no, is that these children, okay, there are multiples of things that the result, no? Some of them come home with pregnancy. Then what are you going to do? Are you going to abort the child now? Then that become even more complication, which you could have avoided if there were a better education of these children in terms of what it says and how you don't comport yourself when you go around and start messing up with other people. See? So it's a very important conversation. All right, now I want to believe that some people don't even understand what is meant by body safety. Can you give us a small education of that?
So body safety is a set of teachings that aims to equip a person with the knowledge and skills to prevent sexual abuse. So it's a group of teaching or a set of teaching that aims to equip a person with the knowledge and skills to prevent sexual abuse. There are different models in body safety. We encourage children to appreciate their bodies. We teach them their bodies are beautiful. We teach them they can decide what happens to their body. They have every right to decide what happens to their body. We teach them that any touch that makes them uncomfortable, it doesn't even have to be just on the private part. It can be any part of their body. They have every right to say no. They have every right to say stop it. then they should also know that there should be no secret between them and their parents. They should also know that any threat from anybody, let's say somebody tried to touch your private parts, and of course they said, no, stop it. Don't ever do that again. And the person tries to threaten them. They know not to be afraid. They know that person is just saying that so that he or she would not report to their parents, and so that the parents will not take action. So these are things we teach in body safety education. We teach every child that they are beautiful. We teach every child they are special. We teach them the correct names of their private parts. We teach them actions to take if they are in harmful situations. So that is what body safety education is all about. So body safety education helps the child to be confident, helps the child to speak out, helps the child to know what actions to take whenever they find themselves in difficult positions. It also helps the child know situations that could be harmful, because we teach them all these things. At the end of the day, we also teach them that pedophiles or sexual predators could be anybody. It could even be a relative. It could even be a family member. It could be, sadly, a parent. So at the end of my teachings, I share the Sexual Assault Referral Center number with these children, and I ask them to keep it. I do not pray that their parents are perpetrators of sexual abuse. We have seen instances, we have seen parents who molest their children. So we empower these children to even know what to do if a relative, including parents, are harming them or sexually abusing them, what they should do, so that they won't be helpless as well if their parents are involved in this menace. So that is what body safety education is all about.
Now, looking at the culture of the people, the behavior of the people, you are in northern part of Nigeria, no? Where in some cases we have heard of several reports of child marriage and things related to that. So when you talk of this molestation, adult taking advantage of children, where do we draw the line? Is it culturally acceptable for children to be molested? Which one do we actually call molest? Is it the one that is sanctioned by a certain culture? So I'm sort of finding it even more difficult there to understand about the safety of the children, because relationship in most of the cases, no, generally, we are expecting two mature adults to enter into relationship. But what we find in some cases is that we have babies that are given out as bride, no?
Yeah.
So I don't know what you want to speak to that, if that is part of what you are campaigning against, or maybe I'm just overstretching the argo. Please help me with that.
So yes, what you said is true. A lot of girls get married very early here. Some are forced, or most of them are forced by their parents. And when you ask them, they say they cannot refuse their parents because their religion forbids a child from refusing their parents. So even if when these girls do not want to get married to the older man or to whatever man they bring, she feels forced to do it because her religion tells her never to disobey her parents. So in this case, I will fault our government because our government knows this is happening. But because it's a religious thing now, they tend to ignore or we're fortunate. So when I go to the schools, I encourage the children, especially the girls. I tell them they can decide whatever happens to their bodies. Even if protecting themselves means disobeying their parents, they should go ahead. I encourage them. I tell them there are organizations willing to help them. These organizations will shelter them. They would pay their school fees even. All they need to is just, oh, I need help. This is happening, but most of them don't speak out until it's too late. Most of them just enjoy it for the rest of their lives. So I do not forget to teach these girls, especially when I go to their area, because I live in Kaduna South. When I go to the north to teach, I always add it in my teaching in the hope that if any of the girls ever find themselves in such a situation, they will know what to do. So in Nigeria, Africa, in fact, the world at large, we have what we call harmful cultural norms. That is, they are like behaviors that are wrong, but are accepted in the community. So people know it's wrong to actually marry a girl, an underage girl, but because it's accepted in the community and their religion accepts it, they keep quiet. So we have a lot of harmful cultural norms in Nigeria. Even in the case of domestic violence, most communities, most tribes do not think there is anything wrong with a husband beating his wife. They feel it's okay for a man to beat his wife. So when they see such situations, they do not report to appropriate authorities. They do not even try to help the woman involved. Even the woman involved doesn't try to help herself because she thinks it is normal. Her parents told her to obey her parents. Her parents told her to beg her husband anytime she does wrong, or even when he's angry with her, even if she doesn't do anything wrong. So she has been brainwashed from a young age to accept these false teachings because of harmful cultural norms. So it's actually a big problem, and it's not just enough that we sensitize. We're doing sensitization. The government has to step in. The government has to set laws to implement to help curb this, because there has been a rise in the cases of domestic violence in Nigeria. It's like every month or many times a month we hear, okay, a woman died, her husband killed her husband stabbed her, husband shot her. We are always hearing cases. The recent one, Osinachi, they said her husband beat her to death. But she couldn't even complain to the doctor when she went to the hospital. She couldn't even tell the doctor what was exactly wrong with her. And unfortunately, she died. She died. So we have a lot of these cases, and I feel our government, our religious leaders, and community leaders have a part to play to curb it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, that is true. It's a responsibility for everyone because, of course, children are raised at home before they go outside to become individual. They are part of the family. So the family have a role. And when the children get outside then and begin to operate, of course, there are laws that need to be in place to intervene in case there is any danger. This is very important. Okay, now say a family or maybe a child report a threat. The number that you are distributing around to call, they call the number. What eventually happen when maybe the victim is this case is caught? What is usually the punishment? I mean, what happened? Help us break down the process.
You mean, let's say a child was almost sexually abused and the perpetrator was caught. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe the child has been abused already. Now, because of this training that they are undergoing, they know who to call. They call this number and the suspect is arrested. I want you to tell me the process. What happened eventually to conclude the case?
Okay, first, the child is taken to the hospital. So this test, HIV test, sexually transmitted disease, all those tests um, are, are are done to ensure the child is not infected. And then, of course, the child undergoes different counseling sessions. And the day the child is brought in, their the clothing, the pants, and all of that are kept. They're like they will be used in court. So all those things are evidence that will be used in court. If the man himself has a case, there's a lawyer, pro bono lawyer assigned to the child that will take up the case, and a court case will be started as soon as possible. So, like in Kaduna State, when a person is caught, it's actually very fast here in Kaduna State because the governor is someone that doesn't tolerate such. So it's fast, and the with all the evidence brought, the perpetrator is indicted, and the child continues with counseling sessions until we're sure the child is fit to stop coming. Yes. So, but what I do is with my body safety campaign, it's more like a preventive measure to prevent it from even happening in the first place. That is my goal, to prevent it from happening in the first place. So we do not want this thing to happen to the child because it destroys lives. It's like a psychological trauma that lingers for too long in the child's life. So my goal is to stop it from happening. My goal is to prevent it from happening. That is my goal. That is why I'm doing what I am doing. I do not want any child to go through or to experience sexual abuse. So my goal, my aim is to prevent it from happening. That's why I do all this teaching, so that the children would know harmful situations, would know what to do in harmful situations, and hopefully they will be protected. Hopefully this, because of all they have been armed with, will not happen to them.
All right. Now, who should be more concerned about body safety?
Okay, so my target is children first, parents, then educators. The parents, while the children, I believe my teachings empower the children. When a child is informed about something, the child knows what to do. The child is knowledgeable. The child knows, okay, this actually happens. So the child already has it in her head or his head that this actually happens to children. This is what I do. This is what I should do if I find myself in near harmful situations. This is what I should do if this person tries to do this or do that. Then for the parents, I teach them so that they can teach their children at home, so that they can repeat the teachings as well constantly. Because these teachings, it shouldn't be a one-time thing. It should be a continuous thing because children are involved, they could forget. So the job of the parent now is to continue the teachings at home so that these children will not forget the teachings. Then for the educators, teachers, they can also continue where I stopped by repeating these teachings. So this is why it is important. But body safety is actually for children. But I engage the parents and the teachers as well so that they can continue from where I stopped. They will continue reminding their children so that the children don't forget. So that is where the parents and the educators come in. But body safety is actually for children.
Okay. All right. For children, is it all children? From your study, from your understanding of this particular abuse cases, either in Kaduna State or in other parts of Nigeria, is it only about the girl child, or the abuse is both for, it's also for male children? Can you share anything with us in that line?
Okay, any child could be abused, whether male or female. Although more female children are abused, but both sex are abused. So body safety education is for both males and females, because even males can be abused. Even males are being abused. So body safety is actually for males and females. So when I go to the schools, I teach both the males and the females.
Thinking back to the question I asked you before about how the process work from when a child report a case to maybe eventually concluding it. I don't remember if you talked what if you talked about what happened to the perpetrator. Do you often hear them be sentenced? I don't know if you say anything about that. If you have said anything about that, then we can just proceed. If not, if you could share anything in that line, whether you have heard of some sentences, what is the sentences usually? Is it like maybe 2 years in prison, or maybe they are eventually released? Or can you share anything in line with that?
Okay, they are actually sentenced from 7 to 14 years. They are actually sentenced, and their names will be included in the sex offenders list. So most state governors are coming up with sex offenders list so that parents, neighborhoods can go and check. That is, if they see somebody strange in their community, they can go and check the sex offenders list and check if that, they'll check if they see that face there. So whenever a perpetrator is found guilty, his name and his picture is included in the sex offenders list. He is indicted, is sentenced, most times from 7 to 14 years, depending on the depending on the case or his the form of sexual abuse. So I have seen a few, although in Nigeria there are quite a few. They are not most people that most perpetrators actually go scot-free in Nigeria, because most parents do not want to, because of shame, and they feel that will bring shame to their families. They do not report these cases to sexual assault referral centers or the police station. So most of the cases don't come to light because of shame and secrecy. So most of these perpetrators go scot-free. But these days, it's coming to light. More and more people are becoming aware. So when most times the perpetrator is sentenced, he's sentenced and his name is included in the sexual offenders list.
All right, thank you so much for that, Noye. Now, tell me about your training about safety, body safety. How do you really embark on this training? How do you talk it with the children so that they understand what to do? I mean, tell me about it.
Okay, first, when I go to the class, of course, I would have finished talking with the administrator and would have set a date to come for the teachings. When I go to the class, I make it interactive. I want them to tell me their problems. I want them to share concerns. That is one of my missions. So when I go there, I'm very, very free with them. I explain, they ask all manner of questions, and I answer as much as I can, as much as time will permit me. I teach them, I tell them they are special. That's the first thing. I tell them they are special. I tell them they are beautiful. I tell them they need to know all the names of their private parts. I actually put it as a question to them. And unfortunately, most of them don't get the answers because they were not taught at home. They were not taught at home to use the correct names of their private parts. So when I ask, they cannot even mention all the private parts. Some just mention breast or buttocks, but some don't even mention anything because they are ashamed. So they do not mention this. So I have to teach them, and I make them repeat it. I make them understand there is nothing wrong with using these body parts in conversations. I make them understand penis, vulva, clitoris, vagina, buttocks, anus are not bad words, and they can be used in conversations. I make them understand that before I leave the class, I ensure that they are free to use these words. I encourage their teachers to use it in conversations if there is need for it in school. I also tell them not to make these children ashamed of this word, because there is nothing wrong with using this word. They're actually the right names of body parts. I inspire confidence. I tell children the little things they can do, like if somebody grabs their arm, they can hit that person and run to safety. We actually act these things out, we play it out. I tell them actions we should take. We all shout together. We shout, no. I tell them, why do they need to shout? And they answer, because to call the attention of others so that other people can help them. So I teach them it's okay to run from harm, how they should run, and actions to take, telling their parents. And I also tell them, if their parents don't believe them, let's say something like that happens and their parents do not believe them, they should keep on telling their parents. And if their parents still do not believe them, then they should call the Sexual Assault Referral Center, so that the Sexual Assault Referral Center can take up the case since their parents do not believe them. I also teach them safety measures, like if they walk home from school alone, how they shouldn't talk to strangers, how they shouldn't walk in lonely roads, how they should walk in groups. I teach them all of that. I teach them a little, should I say, defense mechanisms in case they find themselves in very tight spots. I teach them they are powerful. I teach them they have a voice and they should use it. So that is what I teach these children in schools, and it has been interesting. It has been interesting. I have reached to 277 children for now, and I will continue in May when they resume. So I would be doing a larger number, since my aim is to reach 3,000 primary school children.
That's interesting. Thank you so much for that. Talking in general sense, I think there could be a rule for body safety. Because I don't know, body safety, is it only for children? Okay, I know that what you are targeting are children, but generally speaking, body safety, is it only for children, or adult can also be taught about body safety? And in that case, what can be the rules of engagement in terms of body safety?
So body safety is actually the first step to teaching sex education. Body safety is appropriate, like from ages 0 to 8. So body safety is actually appropriate for younger children, 0 to 8 years old. Then from 9 and above, you can start sex education. Body safety is actually for children, although adults can pick one or two things from body safety, but body safety education is strictly for young children. Yes. But the lessons an adult can pick from body safety is body appreciation and self-confidence. Yes, but body safety education is strictly for young children.
All right, that is powerful. Thank you so much for that. All right, now, say somebody want to connect with you, or want to, I don't know if you have anything there that you are offering, a course or a book or a training program. How can they reach you? Use these few seconds to promote yourself. Please go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to share a link with you so that you can share it with my bio when you're publishing it. But I'm on LinkedIn as Henrietta Nonye Odey, and I am on Facebook as Henrietta Nonye Odey. My children's book will be ready very soon, and my courses are ready. They're ready. I will be conducting a free class by the end of this month. Yes, it's going to be Power Packs, and they can reach me on LinkedIn. I would also share my email address with you so that they can also reach me through that.
All right, that is great. Now, what do you recommend to children in order to prevent this abuse? What are the strategies you recommend to them? I don't know, maybe like 2 or 3 strategies that they should adopt.
Okay, first off, speaking out. Speaking out is important. Like when somebody is doing something and you're uncomfortable with it, you tell the person straight up, I don't like what you're doing. Stop it. No, stop it. Don't do that again. I do not like it. And of course, you report all those kind of incidences to your parents so that your parents can take action. Then let's say the person grabs you, you can shout, you can kick. It is not wrong to kick. You're defending yourself. You can kick, you can hit to get out of the grip of that person so you can run. And as you're running, you're shouting at the top of your voice. You're shouting at the top of your voice so you could call people to know, okay, this thing is actually happening. This person was trying to harm me. Then there are also instances where a child's age mate is the one that actually abuses another child. In such cases, it's still the same thing. You have to be able to speak up. You have to be able to defend yourself. You are amazing as a person. You shouldn't keep quiet when somebody is hurting you. You shouldn't shut your mouth when somebody is hurting you. It's identified that there are bad people in this world. There are bad people that could want to hurt you. There are bad people that want to cause sadness to you. You have every right to defend yourself. You have every right to speak up. So speaking up is number one. Because when you're speaking up, you're liberating yourself. You're attracting people to the scene. People who can help you. And you're reporting. At the end of the day, you will report to your parents who can also take appropriate actions to help you. Then, of course, we also leave the sexual assault referral number with the child so that the child can reach the sexual assault referral centers in case their parents are not doing anything about any harmful situations those children may be in.
All right. Now, what will be your last statement to conclude the conversation? Because, of course, we have touched a lot of important things here from where you are coming from, your place of origin, and your love. I remember how much you love the food that they prepare in Anambra State. I'm not forgetting that, okay? So, we also talk about what you are currently working. I want to look at it like your calling. So to conclude the conversation and make sense of it in your own way, maybe it can even be a message. So please go ahead and do that.
Okay. This is actually for parents. I want parents to be alert, to communicate with their children, to have a relationship with their children, to play with their children, to know their children. Being busy at work is no longer an excuse. Every parent should have time for their children. Your child should be able to come to you and complain, Mommy, Daddy, this is what happened in school. This person did this person did that. That happened. You should be able to talk, play with your children. I love children to be expressive. And how are children expressive when they are not shut down at home? A lot of Africans shut down their children. That's why there is so much fear and secrecy surrounding sex. It's important parents understand the more there is fear, shame, and secrecy surrounding this subject, it is harder to talk about it. Imagine a parent who hardly calls the correct names of his private parts. That's how the children are going to grow. If in a house, the father or the mother cannot even say, okay, cover your buttocks properly or use the correct names of the private parts, how do you expect the child to use the correct names of their private parts if you as a parent are not using it in conversation? If the child is in situations of danger, how does it, when it concerns sexual abuse, how does the child open her mouth or his mouth to tell you about it? Because you don't talk about such things, the child is not confident enough to come and tell you, this is what happened. This person tried touching my buttocks, or this person slapped my buttocks, or this person touched my breast. The child will not be able to tell you all those things because you people don't talk about it at home. So try as much as possible. It is not bad using the correct names of your private part. Another important reason for using the names of the private part is if something happens, the child can confidently say, this person tried to touch my vulva because she knows where the vulva is. She knows the location of the vulva. She knows the location of the vagina because you taught her. But when you call all the parts pet names or similar names, like the people that call bum bum, they call vulva bum bum and buttocks bum bum, how does the child tell the parent that this is what is happening? Let's say somebody tries to touch her vulva, she's going to come and tell the parent, this person tried to touch my bum bum. So it becomes confusing. So it's important we stick to the right names of this private part. There is nothing, and it's important we teach our children that they are not bad words, and there is nothing wrong with using them in conversations. We really need to remove all shame, fear, and secrecy surrounding this subject. It's important parents do that. And as much as possible, be there for your children. Your children should know that you have their back. Your children should know to the last. They should be able to trust you. And when you're the first person to teach your children things, they are more trusting towards you. So I want all parents to be hands-on. No matter how busy you are, it's important to create time for your children. This will drastically reduce the incidences of sexual abuse.
Nonye, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time. I appreciate the conversation and the sharing here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi Podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewafo. Thank you so much for listening and talk to you in the next episode.